camera before?
Yeah, but that was probably childhood videos. Do you ever do that when you're playing and it's like,
I was just about to ask you what that looked like. Like, how did it look? Like,
yeah.
was it like a death
Okay.
rattle, or was you?
One of the when I was a kid, I used to always play like horror movie stuff, right? With me and me and my friends. And one of the most random horror movies we ever was playing out was The Relic. Do you guys remember the movie The Relic?
Why
Yeah,
the
yeah, in the
relic?
museum.
Why The Relic? Yes. Why The Relic? Don't know. But like my Rottweiler was like the monster and it would try to eat us. Like I don't even know if that was part of the lore, but it was like it would always yell out The Relic, and I was like, why? I haven't seen that movie in decades.
But then a few years ago you died on camera.
Which one?
You caught on fire.
Oh yeah, I did. Hey, I did. I did on the
Yeah.
Too High McFly short.
You
You're right.
you combusted.
My balls were still left there though, right?
Huh? Yes, your balls were still there. So those were saves, and they are now
Brass,
a
you got brass
relic.
balls, Dan.
Yeah,
Brass balls, bro.
they're now a relic in the museum.
Yes. You can question my integrity. You can question my work ethic, but never question my balls.
Do you have hair on your brass ball? Forget it. Forget it.
We're too far. On that note, welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a movie podcast and television podcast by filmmakers who like to talk about brass balls. I'm your host, the rebooted Daniel.
Los cojones. I am Jose Reborn.
I still haven't got the memo. 35 episodes in. I'm Chuck.
Hit us with the current events, Jose.
James Earl Jones has basically sold his the rights to use his voice computerized even after he died. So they're able, he gets paid and he doesn't even have to go into the booth or anything. So they'll be able to digitally recreate his voice and use it going forward. I don't know if it's like forever, but at least at this point in time, he's given them that freedom to do that. I mean, of course, I'm sure he got paid handsomely, but I feel, do you guys think that's gonna start a trend of maybe getting other iconic voices to pretty much get paid to allow the digital recreation of their voice?
I think they've done it before, haven't they? Like, I felt like they've done it before. I don't know to what extent, but I feel like they've done that before for like video games and things like that. I know Johnny Depp did some of that for Pirates.
Yeah, but this is like I think it's like a forever thing. Like even after I'm dead, you can keep using my voice. Type thing. Yeah. It's not like a hey, this project, can we use your voice type thing. It's like, hey, give us rights to your voice that we can like recreate it at any point.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. If they take his voice, or let's just say your voice, let's just say you signed this deal and they took your voice, what would be the most embarrassing thing that they can put it on where you're like, ugh, where you're rolling in your grave? Like, that's what they're using my voice for?
Like if they used my voice as a voiceover for Josh Hartnett, like I would come back to life just to revoke the rights and then like go and die again.
What if they redubbed all of his movies and then because they're re-released, it's now Oscar nominated? Thanks to Jose's voice and his performance with his dub voices.
No, but I'm saying just imagine like what are some other iconic voices that automatically resonate, like Morgan Freeman. He's got one of those iconic voices. That's one that they might try to buy the rights for. Or just think how long characters where they use the voices, how long that character can like live in projects. Let's say like a Chucky. How long you can keep him going with the same voice going forward. So I think that might be where we'll be heading to at some point.
Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger. Give me some of that. Because like
I was just gonna say, I was waiting for him to stop talking so I could be like Freddy Krueger, dude. Like,
but then I snuck it in.
You do that, huh?
Sneak right
you
in.
do that. You're a
right in
inner.
Swooper.
Like,
I'm a swooper.
Move that underwear to the side, and then you just sneak it in.
Dan with the interception.
That's what happens, man. Don't throw the ball my way. That's our third ball reference. So on this week's episode, we are talking about horror movie remakes. Do we like them? Do we hate them? How do we feel overall? So how do you guys, what's your overall thoughts on remaking horror movies? Let's start off with Chuck.
Like how recent?
Just
All
in
of them.
general, when they
Yeah,
get
just in general.
remade, when they do a
Because
remake.
I think about The Thing, right, with Kurt Russell.
Mhm.
Technically, it's a remake, but it's very good.
Yeah.
And then they came out with another one, which I don't know if it was a remake. It was more of like
I think that was a prequel.
A
It was
prequel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like it because I like The Thing, but it wasn't very good. You know, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like a great movie like the original Thing. And then you get
You like
stuff
the
like
idea behind it.
I do.
Okay.
And then you get stuff like A Nightmare on Elm Street, where I mean, do I need to say anything else? You know, like. So my overall thought, I'm gonna say no. I don't really like horror remakes. I can't think of any good ones.
I feel it's one of those things that's high risk, high reward.
Yep.
There isn't much like middle ground with it. There's so much expectation that comes with it, especially if it's something that has a big fan base, that you're either gonna nail it to the point that they love it, or they're gonna hate it. There's no middle ground. There's no mediocre for like the fans of the series. Like you need to surpass or equal, or it's just gonna bomb. So like
Evil Dead, that was a good one.
it's very hit or miss. Yeah, we're gonna get into those.
Well, I just felt like, because I was like, I can't think of any good ones, and I was like, ah,
There's
fuck.
been a lot of
Evil
good
Dead.
ones.
Yeah,
a lot of good ones.
There's
Really?
some good ones. Yeah.
Like what? Like what?
We're gonna get
We're
to
gonna get into
that.
it.
That's a whole
Yeah.
other question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with horror in general. If you look at the wide spectrum of horror, there's probably more bad movies than there are good movies, right? That's fair to say. So if you're going to remake or reboot movies, it tends to go in the same fashion. I think overall, I used to be a lot more of a little bit of a Nazi when it came to remakes. Like, don't remake, good movies, don't remake them. I've obviously softened up because they just half the movies that
Yeah,
come
you
out.
have.
You got me. You got
Oh,
Zing.
you just said it. That was an alley right there. An
I
alley.
know.
Just
Alley-oop,
set
I
it
was
up.
like, oh, thanks, Dan. Boom.
Boom.
Dunked
Right
it.
in there.
Balls
Dunked
in your
the
face.
ball.
Yeah.
Now who's
Oh.
intercepted, bitch?
I'm sorry, dude.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, man.
One thing I gotta add to this, like
Mhm.
I think one thing we need to keep in mind when it comes to remakes is it can vary by audience. Like I think you're gonna get more extremities with diehard fans of a horror
Yeah.
franchise or a horror character. You're gonna get more sway with that. But I think you get more leeway with someone who might be new to the series, where they're not having that
Yeah.
other one to compare it to.
Mm.
So there you might get because I've seen movies that get remade, and someone who never saw the original be like, "This is great." Well, the diehards like that's pure shit.
Yeah, it is. And I think the whole idea of like the multiverse has really opened things up for a lot of us, because take Halloween, for instance, right? That franchise, they've rebooted it several times already. So now that there's different timelines, it doesn't really matter anymore. You're not as like, oh, don't remake them. The original is great. It's like, well, then just go back and rewatch the originals. If you want to be stuck on the originals, watch them. But for us, it's like, well, I still don't mind reboots and remakes with these things, because I still want to see the characters and new deaths. I want to see what they bring to more modern times. So it's not a big deal to me. I think it's fine as long, it always comes down to as long as they do it well. That's so much easier said than done, because usually they don't. That's just what it is. How do you guys feel about recasting horror icons? We'll start off with Jose this time. How do you feel about that?
I think it depends on the characters. If you have a horror icon who has a big personality, and their big personality is what drives the movie, it's what brings people to the movie, like a Freddy Krueger. It's the main thing that pops in my head. I feel that's harder to recast, and they attempted and it failed. That's harder because yes, the movies are themselves were good, especially the originals, but he makes it. You take out Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
and it just isn't as good.
Yeah.
Then if you have characters that it's not about the personality, it's about the kills or it's about the victims and all that stuff, that's easier to recast, like a Jason or Michael Myers.
Mhm.
It's a mask.
Yeah.
So you can literally put anyone back there who was big and imposing, and it has the same effect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Chuck.
And how would you feel about Chucky? Did you feel like he was recast in the reboot?
He was, and I actually liked it. And we'll get into that later when we talk about Chucky, but I didn't mind that. I came in skeptical thinking, ooh, I don't know. But then again, look who was voicing him. Someone, who has done iconic voices before. So I think he was able to kind of live up to it.
Yeah. Mark Hamill wins at anything, dude. If anytime it's like a voice thing, he's one of the best voice actors, I think, is Mark Hamill. That guy's awesome. If it's a personality, sort of like what Hugh Jackman does for Wolverine, it's so much harder to recast for something like that. I thought them changing up the gender for Pinhead is fine because Pinhead wasn't a dominating personality. It was more just the aesthetic look of how he looked. That's why I'm okay with that recasting. I don't have an issue with the new Hellraiser movie. But if eventually they're gonna have to redo Freddy, and I really hope they do it right and don't give us an actor without much of a personality. Like, you're gonna have to cast somebody that's just really, really good on personality. Now, Robert Englund, we associate him, right, as Freddy, but I can interpret. I mean, I can accept a different interpretation of Freddy as long as the person is good at what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? If they cast like a really good actor that does a good job, then yeah, I can look through a different lens and say this is a different Freddy. I'm okay with that.
So you're saying that the guy that they casted last time was just outright horrible, or did you feel like you compared him a little bit?
I compared him a little bit. He's a good actor, but I don't know how he is in terms of like comedy. I know he was Oscar nominated, if I'm not mistaken, that guy. So he's a legit actor. It's just, it's got to be the right personality. Like, if you were to cast, oh man, it's so hard. I was gonna use the example Christian Bale is like Wolverine, but Christian Bale is such a good actor. But if you get somebody like that, even if they're a good actor, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right attitude or personality for the character.
You can't have Tom Hanks as Wolverine. He's an amazing actor, but
yes,
can you really see him as Wolverine?
I'd watch it though. I'd watch it.
Oh, I'll give it a try.
I don't think Tom Hanks is a good actor.
Really? Ooh,
I think
movie debate.
Yeah, I think that he's always Tom Hanks. He's Tom Hanks is this character. Tom Hanks is it. He's just always Tom Hanks. I get it. No one can be Daniel Day-Lewis where he just disappears in the character. But to me, Tom Hanks is always just Tom Hanks. Like, people watch it. Oh, I want to see the new Tom Hanks movie. I want to see Tom Hanks. I want to see Tom Hanks. Like, they want to see Tom Hanks. Like, he's just Tom Hanks to me. Even as Forrest Gump, he was still Tom Hanks.
Jose, let's hear the rebuttal.
I never, ever, when you hear you say a word about Josh Hartnett, ever, because he has only been Josh Hartnett, and that's not even good.
Yeah, so
he can't even do himself good.
Josh Hartnett and Tom Hanks are from the same school of like, I'm that guy playing myself. I'm myself playing the character. It's just Tom Hanks is the head of the class, but he's still always Tom Hanks. You don't think Jose obviously disagrees. Dan, you see a different character every time you see a Tom Hanks movie? You don't see Tom Hanks?
I see different interpretations of him. I think Tom Hanks is great. When he had that run, he was the best actor during that era. Now it's kind of, I don't want to use the word falling off a little bit, but he's not challenging himself as much as he used to. But like in Castaway, I thought he did good. I know what you mean about the quips. You're talking about like his quick like comedy quips a little bit. Like, is that what you're talking about? Because like
he's
he does
just
it even
always
in
Tom
Castaway.
Hanks to me. He's just Tom Hanks stranded on a fucking island. He's Tom Hanks it as the fucking captain in Saving Private Ryan. He's Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, and he's sick, and he's got AIDS, and he's gay, but he's Tom Hanks. Like, he's just always Tom Hanks to me, just going through different times of his life as Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I think that's a you problem.
Someone agrees. Someone will agree.
So anytime they do changes where they do reboots in horror movies or remakes, sometimes they'll have tonal changes. How do you guys feel when they do something like that? An example is Evil Dead, right? So in that one, it's a lot more of a comedy horror. When we got the new Evil Dead remake, it's strictly horror. They didn't really go comedy with that one at all. How do you guys feel when they do that? Do you actually like it? Do you prefer that they do that if they do a remake or a reboot, or do you prefer they stick to the same tone?
It comes down to execution.
Mhm.
I feel Evil Dead was good execution when it came to a tonal change. You know, it leaned more towards the horror, and I feel it executed it well. Then you have again, we're going back to Nightmare on Elm Street. They had a tonal change, and they went way too serious with it, and it failed. It just didn't fit the movie. So it comes down to execution and what is the horror movie about.
Yeah, like Jose was saying, it's all about execution. Like, Evil Dead went from, kind of horror comedy, and then the new one, the remake, which I have to backtrack on, was so good. It was scary too. I was fucking scared. I saw it in the movie theater. It was good.
Yeah, it was
And
good.
so as long as like it's good and it's well made, and then yeah, why not? Why would you kind of want to see the same thing again? Like, switch it up, see how it goes. But
Yeah.
And it kept the core. I mean, in the end, it's still a horror. The original was a horror. It was more campy, but it was meant to be horror with some lightness to it. Nightmare on Elm Street, in the end, it was again still horror. They just sucked the life out of it, but it was still horror. So in a way, they're kind of sticking with the same genre. They're just leaning more towards one element of it.
What do you guys think would be a good time frame before a remake should be done?
I'm gonna go 20 to get a legit remake where like you not even really thinking about the other one anymore. You even got it kind of out of your system where you're trying to even like compare because it's just been so freaking long. Like, I would say 20 years, but it seems a little long, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay.
Because that's what I have.
I'm actually not too far off of that. I was saying like 15 plus. Anything beyond that, I feel you got to give the fans a chance to miss the character if you're gonna do a remake, and give it a chance for like another generation to kind of come into the character. If it's under that, especially if it's under 10 years, just do a fucking sequel. Don't even bother with a remake at that point.
Yeah. I think you can get away with like a decade if you do like a TV show or a mini series. If you kind of change the format on how it's being perceived, it's a little bit of a different project. So I'd be a little more open to that. But like you said, if it's anything below, it really feels like just give us a sequel, give us a prequel of some sort. Prequels tend to be the easiest way to reboot a franchise without saying you're rebooting it, right? You get to test out the prequel, see how it does. If it does well and there's a lot of interest in it, then you can do a follow-up sequel to the prequel, and now it's kind of its own thing, and voila, it's a reboot. So let's get into some of the best and some of the worst horror remakes that they've had.
I think with the Evil Dead, which kind of piggyback what you said earlier, is that they kept like that core. The story was still the same with the book and the characters and everything, but it was scary. It was different. Like, even the reason why they were there was different, right? Like, so all that was like new, so it was a little bit refreshing, but also you got the same core, the same structure, the bones of the original one, with like awesome freaking kills and blood and gore, and like I think that's why it really worked for me, plus it was scary.
I agree there. I feel I enjoyed the tonal change of it, and like you said, they kept the core concept of what it was, and they decided like, hey, we're gonna go scary, and they fully leaned into it. You know, they went 100% with the horror. They didn't try to half-ass it and still throw a little campiness in it. They're like, no, we're going horror, and they did it. And the execution was on point. You know, you had some good tense moments, some good scary moments. The performances were good. So overall, I feel like that was good execution. They knew what they were doing, and they went for it.
Yeah, they gave us dope visuals. They gave us really good character development. You know, we got good character development. Even the reason why they were there was, you know, for the care of the younger sister, you know, so to kind of help her break, because she had like a drug addiction, right? I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
So they were there to help her get over that. But even that whole element was really cool about it. And it was just dope. I think they even still did their the Sam Raimi shot, I think. So there was just enough of it where they gave the shout out and the respect to his predecessor, which was really cool, you know, without saying, oh, we're trying to give you another Ash. There is no other Ash. Like Bruce Campbell is Ash. So I like that, man. Yeah, I really, really dig Evil Dead. It's one of those ones that made it more like a real movie in a sense, even though as much as we love Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, there's such a campiness to it. And if somebody's not into campy horror, they're not going to like the movies. Like, I don't think it's not like a universally praised movie. It's just, it's set for a certain type of fan base, which is what we are, where we like campy horror. Evil Dead is more of a true horror movie where I think it doesn't really play into the campiness, you know, into it. There are some campy scenes and stuff and deaths and gruesomeness in it, but it doesn't rely on that too much. And
I say, which is cool because, you know, supposedly the original was not meant to be this campy movie. It was meant to be an actual horror movie, but it ended up being campy and building this cult following. And then they were like, hey, let's just lean into it. And that's just kind of what it became. So this one did what the original wanted to. This one was able to do it. And, you know, even like, you know, you mentioned the excuse for them being there. Like, even I felt that was well done. It was excusable. It's not, yes, she was a drug addict, and it's not like, hey, let's just go to the middle of nowhere. Everything else has failed. This is our last resort. We're gonna take you to the middle of nowhere so you can't escape and you're forced to recover. So even little things like that made the story cohesive and make sense.
Here's one that I thought, here's another remake that I thought did really, really well and improved on his predecessor. It. The first part, It part one is always better than It part two when they're grown-ups. It's just way more interesting with them as kids. The same held true to the made-for-television movie. It's the same thing for this one. But I thought It part one, Pennywise, what Tim Curry did for Pennywise, it's arguable whether he's the better Pennywise. You know, I'll leave that up for, you know, we won't get into it this time. But other than that, the movie itself, I still like the original movie. Like, it's still fun. But this new It was done so well, man. The creepiness to it. They casted very good kids in it. It had excellent pacing. Even Pennywise was just disturbingly dark. And they gave us, it wasn't the same type of deaths, the same horror beats. It was different. And I enjoyed it, man. How'd you guys feel about It?
I agree. The new It is leaps and bounds better than the original.
Bounds too? Even bounds?
Leaps and bounds, like Superman bounds, like better than the original. I even rewatched the original after watching the new one, and it was just like, ooh. The only the only thing the original has on the new one is the Pennywise is better. It's creepier for me, that Pennywise. Even though the fact that there was this fun to him, you know, this like jokiness to him and all that stuff while he's committing all this stuff made him creepier to me than the straight creepiness you were getting with the new one. And there was like that one scene where the kid like breaks his arm after he falls through the floor. And then Pennywise gave you more of that Curry Pennywise, where he was just like making fun of him and like messing with him. And that was good, but it was like they never gave us more of that. And it was one of those things, like we talked about Evil Dead, is like if you're going to make that decision, fully lean into it. You made the decision of not giving us that jokey, funny, creepy Pennywise that we got the original. So don't give us 5 seconds of it and then like take it away. Just stick with the Pennywise that you created. But
Because then it
besides
stuck
that,
out.
yeah. And but besides that, I feel the acting performances were way better, especially with the kids.
Yeah.
Visually, of course, it was better. I mean, it's a different time frame. The scares were better, the tension was better, the creepiness was better. Of course, that's more for part one, but leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds. What about you, Chuck?
The fuck, you guys said everything. What the fuck do you want me to say?
Do you agree or not?
Yeah, no, I think I do think the remake is better. I'm looking at them as one movie, 1 and 2 as one movie. I think it's better. I know what Jose's talking about with Pennywise. I think that the new Pennywise is scarier, but I think the first one is creepier. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
But
That does.
yeah, he's creepier, and I prefer the original Pennywise over the new one. You know, he's scarier, but I prefer. And like you guys were talking about, like he kind of got into it a little bit, but it was like, it's too late for that already, dude.
Yeah.
You're just kind of scary, and now you're trying to be funny. Like, nah.
I like the original Pennywise. I like the original Pennywise more. Tim Curry, I love Tim Curry. It makes sense in the original one why Pennywise chose a clown, because he plays into the comedy horror. With the new one, he's a clown, but it doesn't make sense why he's a clown. Like
Right.
I understand he got it to scare the kids, but you're just taking a physical form and you're not at all playing into it. So you literally could have just been Leatherface. You know what I'm saying? You could have been Jason. Like, it really doesn't matter. You could have been something else the kids were scared of. You could have been the creature of the Black Lagoon. Like, you could have been a werewolf. Like, it doesn't really matter. You could have been like a monster. Being a clown, it doesn't, other than just the balloons, he didn't really do anything else with it. So even what you were talking about, Jose, when he breaks the arm and he does that little comedy bit, it comes out of nowhere, and it felt weird to the point where we're still talking about it years later because it just didn't jive with it, which I wish we got more of. It would have been great.
I mean, we might as well knock out, since we already mentioned it a couple of times, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
So good.
So we can start with that swamp ass of a movie.
That is the epitome of what horror reboots should be. No, it just doesn't. It's.
Did he rage quit?
He's rage quitting. Every episode, one of us is rage quitting. No, it's just, not to repeat myself. I understand why they went darker with it and they went more horror. I get it, but it's not the Freddy we grew up on. But if you're going to change the tone, make it good. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. It was kind of boring. I remember when I rewatched it a second time, I was just kind of bored on it, dude. I noticed myself getting on my phone. Like, it just didn't hold my interest. There was nothing about it that was its signature thing or a signature moment. You know what I'm saying? Nightmare on Elm Street always had those signature things. It was the signature deaths. This one didn't really have that. And then he used his bitch line, or he threw it at us one time, but it was like, it felt like, huh? Did you hear it? Here's my catchphrase.
I saw it once. I don't even remember it. And once was more than 2 times enough, I think. Like, yeah, like I never watched it again. I was so like, because as I gotten older, I've changed things, but like getting into horror as a kid, it was Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, that's kind of what brought me into horror. And so to see that like later on, like all personal and all bothered by it, like I was like, what is this shit? And I'm like, I feel like I walked out, but I don't remember. But I feel like I did, because I was like, this is awful. Said it was boring. The pacing was awful. Like, there was nothing memorable about it other than that it was awful. So
yeah, I honestly, I don't blame him. Again, he is a really good actor. I think he gave them what they were looking for. This is the vision that they had for it, and I think he gave it to him because he is a really good actor. So I don't put any of this on him. I put this on everyone who was involved in creating this vision and putting it out there.
Just like George Clooney and Batman and Robin. Not his fault, bro. Jar Jar
really
Binks, Phantom Menace, not his fault either.
That's a different story. He was created for that.
No, but I feel with this movie was a nightmare. Like say, like if Freddy was gonna fuck with you, like he would put you in this movie to like fuck, to fuck with you.
The movie
I think
definitely put you to sleep. That's for sure.
yeah. I think the only thing the movie added is they added they verbalized the micro naps, which is stuff we saw in the original series, but they never actually like tried to give it an explanation. So in here, they gave it an explanation how someone can kind of pass out for that like 0.1 second, and the little like micro naps. That's the only thing that this added that it was like, okay, that can add to the original series. Nothing else.
Let's get into Pet Cemetery then.
All right, Pet Cemetery. So, first of all, Pet Cemetery, the original, is by far leaps and bounds one of the best horror movies of all time. Thank you very much, Jose. You okay, Jose? You freeze? What's
Trash.
going on?
Basura.
So when I saw the remake, I was like, no, I didn't like it. And I was like waiting for like all these steps, from the original to get there. And so I didn't like it. And then I watched it again and I enjoyed it a lot more the second time, the remake. But that one I'm okay with. I'm okay with it. And it was different. They had a different kid die in the original. It was a little boy who died and he came back. And then in the new one, it was the girl who died and she came back. And it was a little bit different. And I liked it. I felt like it was just like another kind of chapter to something that I really enjoyed by leaps and bounds.
The little girl was actually creepier, I thought, than the little boy. The little boy, it's a little boy. He can't really talk much. In the remake, the girl, the fact that she could talk and she's like a little ballerina, it adds a little bit of a different
she was
wrinkle
creepy. She
to
was
it.
a little bit creepier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I saw the remake, I didn't fully enjoy it. There was certain parts in it I didn't enjoy it. I had these fond memories of the original from when I was a kid. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna rewatch the original. And I still didn't enjoy the remake, but I enjoyed it more than I did the original because I realized what trash the original was and overrated the original was.
Yeah.
So it gave me a little more respect for the remake. What I will give the remake is the acting performances are leaps and bounds beyond the original. Like with the father, you actually see pain and sorrow there. It didn't look like he was having an allergy attack, when his kids were dying. The girl was creepier. So I definitely give it that. And I feel the remake had a more compelling and intriguing ending than the original. I feel that ending was a really good choice for the remake. And especially that visual of that scene with a kid being like in the car and then you see like the parents and the girl who of course are now transformed coming towards the car. Like, I feel that was a good visual, good ending, good choice. So I feel in the end it was an improvement that I did not know was an improvement until I rewatched the original.
But I like the original Pet Cemetery.
Boom, you lost, Jose. All right, let's go. We're good.
I like it. I like Stephen King, man. Not all of Stephen King stuff, but I like Pet Cemetery. I like the concept of, the resurrection, especially when you start off with the pets and then you bring the child back, showing man's obsession with, bringing his kid back and all that. I think the idea behind it's cool and interesting. I like it, man. I like it.
Let me ask you a little question here.
Okay.
Do you like the concept and the idea of the movie, or do you like the movie?
Okay, so I really like the idea and the concept. The movie itself is still good. I still like the movie. It's got Herman Munster in it. It's good. But I understand watching it now, it doesn't nearly hold up as much as maybe some other horror movies, just because it does get a little boring at times. It's got a little slow pacing of stuff. It could be kind of ramped up a little bit, but I thought the Pet Cemetery remake actually did a pretty good job. I thought they did good too. So next movie up, hit us, Jose.
Next movie up, I feel we should go with Psycho. on this one because
Man.
it's a remake of a classic. So what's your thoughts on that, Chuck?
Is that a remake or is that a shot? Like it was shot for shot, right? Line for line,
Pretty
all that
much,
shit.
yeah.
Would you even call that a remake? I mean,
Just
yeah,
for
but
Vince Vaughn. It's a
a remake.
remake because they remade it. They didn't reboot it because
Yeah.
it's not a reboot. They didn't change anything about it or anything like that. It's a remake.
They
But
colored
Oh,
in the
okay.
lines. They colored in the lines is what it
yeah.
was.
He's like, oh, you're a tracer.
Exactly.
You fucking tracer.
You fucking tracer. They're just
That's
tracing, man.
exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They put the
no.
paper over it and they were like, all right, I'm gonna make this image.
Okay, yeah. It was awful.
Horrible.
Unnecessary.
Horrible.
Terrible.
Really,
Terrible.
man.
What's the point?
I feel as that there's nothing to add to it. It was the fact that it was so similar to it. They added nothing. It's completely pointless of a movie. If anything, you subtracted because Vince Vaughn was not as creepy as you got from the original, just Vince Vaughn's face in general.
Yeah.
So you literally, it was a pointless addition that added absolutely nothing and even subtracted in certain parts. Waste.
Fucking Gus Van Sant. What a dickhead.
Yeah, man. And it was in color. Like I love the original Cycle movie. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I remember when that came out, I was like, I did not want to see that. That was when I was still in that phase of I don't want to see any remakes. I don't want to see any reboots. But I remember watching it. I was like, dude, this is literally the exact same movie. Like, but like worse, man. It's not Hitchcock. It's not Hitchcock, man. It lacked the timing. It lacked the tone. It lacked the suspense between it. It was just felt forced. It was weak.
It was basically like the Wish version. Like
Yeah.
they were like, you were like, Mom, I want Psycho, and she ordered it from Wish, and that's what you got.
We have it at home. We have it at home. It's the at-home version. Next movie up, Jose.
I feel we should go with a good one. Dawn of the Dead.
Ooh,
It was
yes.
remake.
Zack
You want to start it
Snyder.
off then?
Yes.
Yeah, man. So this is the one where I feel like it totally improved on, much like the thing, much like the 80s thing did. I feel like it improved on the original, man. The Zack Snyder, dude, he brought it. Dawn of the Dead was awesome. I still like going back to that movie and rewatching it. Ving Rhames, man, he's so good in that movie. Like, I love the movie. I thought it was really cool. It had really cool action, and he combined the Zack Snyder type action shots with the horror element of it. So even though it was horror, it still felt very actiony, and I liked it. It was very badass. I give it 5 badasses. How about you guys?
Yeah, no, it was dope, dude. Fast zombies. You know, those are always scarier.
I think Dawn of the Dead was just fun. It's just pure fun in that movie. They gave you a good scenario. They gave you good actions, some good visuals on that. The zombies seem like a legit threat, which I'm sure at the time of the original Dawn of the Dead, they seem like a threat. But Dawn of the Dead is going to hold up more over time in that aspect because you've got running aggressive like zombies, and that's always going to be a bigger threat. And it's a movie I rewatch every few years, and and I'm still entertained by it. It holds up.
What horror movies would you guys want to see remade?
See, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place here because as a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, I want to see a new Nightmare on Elm Street.
I do too.
And I want it to be with Robert Englund. But they are dragging their feet here, and he's not getting any younger. So unless he's gonna, James Earl Jones this and sell his likeness and voice for all of time, they need to get started on it soon because I don't want to see it without him. Not saying that it can't be possible. I personally don't want it.
I would have been okay if they never redid it, right? I would have been okay. But because they did and they fucked it up, they need to redo it.
Yeah.
Like, they need to fucking redo it. That being said, I kind of want to see a Clockwork Orange remade. Only because I feel like... Only because I feel like it's a great idea, the great story, all the premise and everything. It's just outdated now. the movie's outdated.
I will murder you, Chuck. That is Stanley fucking Kubrick. Nothing is outdated from Stanley Kubrick. I love
what
The
if-
just
Clockwork
saying-
Orange.
With Michael Bay as director, we can do it.
I'm just saying there should
Jose.
that whole idea, that movie, that the premise of it needs to be out there more, and no one's fucking watching it right now. No one's watching it. Bring it, get it current. Let
Okay.
people see it, and then they can go to the original and be
Okay.
like,
I mean,
"Oh, this
it's
was
not,
dope. I want to
it's
see
not
the
really a
original."
horror though, but you would say like, would you want to see it with more horror elements?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Okay.
It was scary to me when I saw it. I don't know. It was
Yeah,
freaky. It was
it's
weird.
freaky,
To me,
yeah.
it was a horror because I saw it when I was younger. You
Okay.
know, and then as I got older, I was like, "Oh, it's still cool. Of course, it's cool. It's Clockwork Orange." You know, but I would like to see more people watch it. But
Yeah.
I feel like they're not going to unless
Okay.
you know.
Okay. So I have two quick ones. The first one is Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like we have not gotten so many times they've tried to reboot this movie with like Guillermo del Toro involved in it. A lot of big people, and it's not getting made. I'd be dope to see a new Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like I'd be on board with that, man. Bring us some of the OG Universal monsters. Do it right, because I know when they try to reboot that whole Universal monster franchise,
Mummy,
remember they
yeah.
started off with the
Monsterverse?
Mummy. That was terrible, man. That was so bad, and that movie was so awful. But Creature from the Black Lagoon, like let's start off fresh with that one. Since you gave me a Clockwork Orange, that's adding horror elements. One that I thought of that is not really a horror movie, but you can add horror elements is The Time Machine. Did you guys ever see that one? The novel, the H.G. Wells one, but they had movies based off this, and they had one with Guy. Who was it? Guy.
I saw Time Cop.
Not that one. But The Time Machine, you can add some horror elements to it. You know, about a scientist builds a time machine, goes back in time. No,
Wait,
goes
what
in
were
the
you
future.
talking about? Guy who? Guy Pearce?
Yes, Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce is in the remade one, which wasn't very good. But
What's it called?
You-
Time Machine?
The Time Machine. The Time Machine.
Sorry, did I keep interrupting you? But I want these I want these answers.
No, it's
That's why I
fine.
remember
Yeah.
asking.
No, it has Guy Pearce in it, but there's an older one. That's the one that I actually liked watching. So if you're gonna reboot it, reboot the OG one. I think it was made like in the 50s, I think, something like that, maybe 60s. But it's just a really good story, you know. Going in the future, seeing a dystopian Earth of what it is now, where you have the two different humans, one living up on Earth that are weak, and then the Morlocks that are living down underneath the Earth that have become like savages and monsters. That's where they're at now. So you have the intellectual humans on top that are just weak and meek, but they just read a bunch of books, and then you have the Morlocks. So you can really play into the horror elements of that. So I want to see that one rebooted.
You know what I would I wouldn't mind
Hmm.
if we got a Alien one, just because the downhill spiral that series has taken. I just want a pure Alien movie where we focus on the xenomorphs, hunting, bring the horror back. Fuck all this philosophical shit. I don't need to know anything about creation in the center of the universe and and all of that crap. Just give me xenomorph, carnage, and horror. Give me
Yes.
that.
What I would do then is reboot the franchise and not remake the original. I would go off of maybe after the sequel, maybe after Aliens or something like that. And exactly what you said, that's where I would go. Sort of like a spin-off, I guess, but with the Alien Xenomorphs. Another good one would be The Audition. Have you guys seen that one? The Japanese horror movie? That's a good one. So it's about a guy that's recently divorced. He has a buddy that gives him the idea of holding a fake audition for a movie. So he has all these actresses that come in, and the idea is he's going to choose one, and he uses that as an opportunity to hook up with her. But what he doesn't find out
So
is
the
that she's
casting couch.
yes, basically. But she's a freak. She's crazy, and she ties him up and starts mutilating his body. And it's like Misery, but like way more gruesome.
I agree with you, Dan, but I want them to remake it, not America to
Yes.
remake
America,
it, because
yes.
then we're gonna get another Old Boy where it's just
Yeah.
gonna be a watered down version.
Yes, and they go gruesome overseas. America doesn't allow you to really show that stuff. So absolutely, I agree with you. Do it across seas, you know.
I think we should remake it.
Yes.
And I
Let's do
think
it.
that we should also like a movie within a movie, like we'll do casting. For
I
the
like
casting.
that. You just inceptioned us.
No
We'll talk after.
motives.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after. They should just not a horror, but they should remake Pulp Fiction.
I'm gonna cut that out of the episode. That's being cut out. All right, guys, what's on the queue? Hit us with what's on the queue.
You know what? I'm gonna watch Evil Dead because we were talking about it. Now I want to watch it, the new one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, since at this point I have not watched it yet, and we are talking about remakes, I'm gonna have to do the Hellraiser. I was not a huge fan of the originals, so I'm kind of going into this hoping that it, grabs me more than the originals did.
I'm gonna go with the Time Machine. I want to go back and rewatch the original. Man, I saw it when I was a kid. It's been a little while. I'm gonna go back and watch it. So that's what's on the queue. Thank you everybody for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. You can follow us. Please like, subscribe, comment, share on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Not a Strong Start. And you can listen to us on any platform that you listen to your podcast. I'm your host, Rebooted Daniel. You can follow me at King_Sangre.
I'm Jose Reborn. You can find me at This Is Mi Nombre.
I'm Chuck. You can find me at Chad Rodwell 12.
We need to reboot your handle.